Okay, she says she's going to try to chat. And this meeting is being recorded for anybody who would like to see our valiant efforts of trying to get through this electronically. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share a screen with you and that will start the flow of the meeting here. Okay. Can everyone see this shared screen? Introductions and welcome?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we have Devin, Carol, Casey, Todd, and Ty has not connected on. This body here constitutes our Public Works Advisory Commission. 5 of the 7 members, we have 2 vacancies. Our staff that are here today are myself, Neal Winterton, Reed Price, April Nelson, and I will add Giles Demke. Neal or Reed, are you aware of anyone else that's with us from staff?
No.
Reed?
Reed said his
Reed's on
computer
mute.
froze a little bit.
Oh, his screen. I think he has someone in his office. And then we're joined today by Council Member Brent Sumner. So welcome everybody. Oh, let's see. Reed was kicked out, I think, and now he's coming back. All right. Reed, are you there?
I'm back, yep.
Okay. Reed, is there anyone else from your staff?
No.
Okay, very good. Let's go ahead then. We have a body here right now, and let's go ahead and discuss the need to have a new chair and vice chair for the Public Works Advisory Commission. Casey has served as a chair and a vice chair, I believe, and I believe Ty Reiser has also served in those capacities. But we have a need right now for a new chair and a vice chair. Would anyone like to? Oh, Carol Walker is trying to get back in. Here we go. Would anyone like to discuss any names or recommendations for a nomination for a new chair and vice chair?
Requirements that a previous chair cannot be chair again.
I don't know that it's explicitly stated that they cannot, but perhaps it would be good to share that opportunity with others.
Chris, can you hear me now?
Yes, Carol, welcome.
Thank you. Technology is not my forte, but I'm on my iPad, so.
Okay. Good. Welcome to the meeting, Carol.
Thanks. And I can see you. So.
Good, good.
Can you see me or just hear me?
Oh, we can just hear you right now.
Okay. Well, we'll go with that.
Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. We were just discussing the need to have a new chair and vice chair on the Public Works Advisory Commission. We're going through a transition. We have 2 vacancies. And I just mentioned that we have Devin, yourself, Casey, and Todd present. And Ty is a member, but he's not currently on the meeting.
Just ignore it, please.
Okay. So would you like to have a discussion regarding a chair and a vice chair?
No, I did the wrong button. I'm sorry.
Chris, I would be happy to nominate
Yes.
Devin as chair and Todd as vice chair.
Okay. Devin has been nominated as the chair, recommendation, and then vice chair was Todd. Is there a discussion regarding that nomination?
No, I approve that. It's great.
Okay,
Obviously, I would as well.
I would accept the nomination.
very good. So is there a second then? I guess Carol was the second.
Second.
Does Todd accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay.
Very
Great
willingly.
enthusiasm.
Albeit he's in New Jersey. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's go ahead and then take a vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So we have a quorum present, and unanimously we have nominated and approved Devin as the chair, and then Todd as the vice chair. We have 2 vacancies also. I wanted to mention some names that are on our dashboard. Our dashboard includes, for boards and commissions, a list of names of interested citizens. I wanted to throw out some names and then get your advice and recommendation, and then I will actually reach out to them before the next council meeting. Here are the names: Mark Seastrand, Jim Michaelis, Steve Weber, Todd Seeger, Mike Madsen, David Mills, and Chelsea Madsen. I know 3 of those. The first 3 are known to us. We are not aware of the remaining 4, but they could all be very good committee members. Or perhaps you also have some of your own recommendations and ideas.
I think those top 3 would be great. Any of them. Especially if they're willing to serve, that makes a difference.
I agree with Carol that we need people who can show up and participate. I don't think that there's any super specialties needed from participants. So if there are people who are interested and we believe that they're likely to participate actively, then I would be fine with any of those.
Okay. Todd, do you have any comment?
No, I don't think so. I think the list of names sounds good so far.
Okay. What I'll do then is I'll reach out to these 3 people, these individuals, and see if they would have an interest. I know Mark has expressed an interest. Former council member Seastrand has expressed interest in serving on a committee. I know he's enjoyed interfacing with our Public Works Advisory Commission in the past. He's also served on the Utah Lake Commission as a representative for the city of Orem. Jim Michaelis has been on this commission before. He's also a former UVU employee with a good background in facilities and utilities and management of those types of the challenges associated with facilities and utilities. Steve Weber's a former city employee. He was in Reed Price's position, so he's keenly aware of these challenges that we face here. He retired about 5 years ago. So I will go ahead and reach out to these individuals, and then I'll report back to you. The next item of business, Devin, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you, and I can help you along the way as we go. The next item of business is the 2019 April 16th, 2019 meeting minutes approval. That was over a year ago, as you can see. We've had a struggle getting a quorum together. So you've all had plenty of time to review that, I believe.
Yeah. And we can all remember exactly what it says.
Based on past performance, Devin, I would move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
I have reviewed these minutes and I would second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, we have four yays. All right. We have before you today an important meeting, actually. It's kind of a kickoff meeting for an update for our master plans, for our water, sewer, and stormwater master plans. And we've broken this meeting up, and Reed and Neal and I will be presenting. I'm going to turn the time over to Reed and Neal. I think Neal is going to take the lead on this portion of our meeting, and then we'll proceed from this point. So Neal, I'll turn this over to you.
All right. I think Casey and Carol have been here since the beginning, but Todd and Devin, I don't think enjoyed the process we went through to actually get the commission started, and its first task that was very important and very successful. The 2016 master plans were approved with about 2 years of work prior to that, if not a little bit more. I don't know if I can drive this from here, Chris. I don't know that I can.
No, it'll be, Chris will have to, it's showing his screen.
So if you can just advance through, I'd actually like to start, Chris, if you could fast forward to my spot there. Yeah, and then we'll jump back to that. But the master plans started off with an educational process. We spent probably a year talking about just the system and what the systems do. When I say systems, I mean water, sewer, and storm drain. And then, yeah, go ahead and jump to philosophy. We talked about the philosophy of how to take care of these systems. We went through a history of how much we've spent, how much the systems are worth. We came to a conclusion, and when I say we, I'm talking about the Public Works Advisory Commission. Eventually, the Public Works Advisory Commission was the body that recommended the plans that went to the City Council for final approval. And the 2% per year replacement for water generally and for sewer as well, we estimated the assets to cost about $350 million, and that ended up with a $7 million capital plan. And so that philosophy of how much to replace per year then turned to a question of how do you fund it? And we kicked around different funding ideas and how to get there, because we were severely underfunded, as you recall, and we took that question to the City Council, and there was different opinions, but the eventual decision was a pay-as-you-go plan, meaning no borrowing. You might recall that we had a plan included in the scenarios to borrow, and this particular graphic shows you the water plan. The storm and sewer are almost identical in just the general concept. The storm drain plan, I don't know, Chris, if you can highlight the 7-year phase-in there. The 7-year phase-in plan was to start from, if you look at 2016, we were just funding under $2 million. And then the plan was to get up to that black line in 2023 of where our funding would be of right around $7 million, $8 million to replace the system on a 2% per year value. So you can see the blue line down at the bottom is where we had been funding. You can see the black line is where we wanted to be funding. You can see the red line was how we were going to get there. And then the colors represented on the stacked bar graph were the projects that were identified through modeling, through discussion and prioritization of what needed to happen. The spreadsheet summary on the following slide shows the dollar figures for those projects. You can see FY17 through FY26 and the total cost, and then how we were going to spread that out over the years. And then obviously, not obviously, but as you recall, we didn't implement rate increases until November into FY17. So we started off a little bit behind. But if you look at the bottom column of FY 2017, you get $3.2 million. You fast forward to FY 21, and we were expecting to be at $6.8 million. And the way we were going to get there on the following slide was through user rates. If you look at the user rates for water, yeah, go ahead. We implemented an increase in rates. I don't know if somebody needs to. But we added the after 2016, and then you can see the sewer base rate was intended to increase, and the sewer volume charge increasing as well, and then the stormwater charge increasing as well. So we got to FY20, and those are the rates that were implemented all for 17, 18, 19, and 20. This last budget year, so we are now in fiscal year 2021. This last fiscal year, we determined that we would, at the request of the City Council, reevaluate the path we were on to see if we could temper the rates. So the rates in 2021 did not increase and are the same as they were in 2020. The request was that we evaluate the possibility of borrowing to pay for some of those major projects that have a longer lifespan, that are going to span generations, namely a storage facility, replacing new meters, a new well. That's just for the water utility itself, and I'm using water as an example. If you look at the next slide, you can see in 2016 we presented a plan that looked a little bit different than what got implemented, and it was water fund expenditures including borrowing. And instead of a gradual uptick in projects and funding, there were 2 major years of $10+ million of bonding to eventually build those projects that would have a generational impact. So if you go back now, Chris, to where I started with listing some of those projects in the water, on a pay-as-you-go process, we have to save up all of the money that we have to build the project. So right now, we've spent about $4 million implementing AMI of that 8.3 that's going to be needed. And we're actually are ahead of schedule on that with our pay-as-you-go plan. We had some opportunities that presented itself that made it possible for us to accelerate that. We have also been awarded, we haven't received the money, a grant from the federal government to pay $1.5 million of that, so we're excited for that. We've also been replacing 4-inch water lines as streets are resurfaced. We kind of have to chase those because it doesn't make any sense if we have an aging pipeline and we're going to redo a road. So we've been implementing replacement as we replace asphalt. The next lines show the money that we've been saving up and we're ready to spend possibly in this area. But the question now becomes, do we need to temper the rates, not pay as you go, which means we need to reallocate monies that we may have been saving up for the storage reservoir and put those into projects that were intended to be funded with utility rate increases and then bond for a storage reservoir. That's a large project that is not just a water line in the ground for a few blocks. Well number 10 is a large project that will have a long life. Water reuse, the treatment component at the water reclamation facility is a generational project, and then the distribution lines to distribute that water and pump it out is also a project that would be eligible for a bonding that could temper the rates in the future. So that's kind of a quick summary of water. Move on to the next couple, and water reclamation. We've actually spent quite a bit of money on pipeline rehabilitation and liners, which has been a great cost savings for the city to extend the life of an existing pipe for who knows how many more years. But we were funding at about $100,000 per year, and now we're at about $1 to $2 million per year. We've lined all of the hillside sewer mains in Orem. That's a great accomplishment to get ahead of potential corrosion. The water reclamation facility is a $300 million facility in and of itself. Unlike water, we receive our treated water through Central Utah's Don Christensen Regional Water Treatment Plant. But in Orem, we have our own sewer treatment plant. And it has its own equipment that we don't want to push to failure. So that requires attention in the utility that we have been able to allocate money there. Ready to bid are the Carterville lift station, the Springwater lift station, and a new force main, and an additional solids handling press at the water reclamation facility. And those are all money in the bank that we have ready to spend that were generated through user rates. In both water and sewer and in storm, we've also had a vehicle and equipment replacement plan to replace different backhoes and pickup trucks and vac trucks and things of that nature that are very expensive. One of the biggest question marks we have for the water reclamation facility moving forward are future discharge limits specific to nutrients. So we're watching that closely. And the tertiary treatment plan that we are putting in for water reuse is going to play a major role in meeting those future standards. So we're anxiously and patiently waiting on that. So that's kind of a summary of water and sewer and the past process that we've gone through.
I'd like to add to that too, that the equipment and the vehicles and all of the tools necessary to run these facilities are very expensive. And we've never been in a better position than we are today with the equipment that we have and the dedication that's now been made as a result of these rate increases to be able to provide these services and to provide the right tools and get them to the right people to do the job. And we're grateful for the commitment of the city council to back the utilities to be able to do that. Neal mentioned that in this year, we decided, in this fiscal year, we decided to hold off on rate increases for sewer and for water. However, for stormwater, the rate increase did take place. So the rate
Down
increase.
on slide 17 there, Chris.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were looking for that.
Okay, this right here. So we're in FY21 right now. We just entered that on July 1st. And these rates all stayed in place for water and for sewer. However, for stormwater, they did go up to $7.60 per ESU from the $7.35. So Reed's going to speak a little bit about stormwater at this point, with the background knowing that stormwater the rates have gone up in accordance with the 2016 plan, and we're set to maintain that in accordance with the CPI of approximately 3%. That'll adjust based on the annual average for the CPI. And so I'll turn the time over to Reed to discuss projects that have gone in place and give you a little more background specific to the Stormwater Master Plan. Reed, are you there?
All right, unmute there. To give everyone a bit of a historical perspective, particularly for the newer folks, just like Neal's plans, this stormwater plan was adopted in 2016 with the rate schedule, and for the most part, that rate schedule has been followed ever since. It included $1 per ESU. Which is, you can kind of think each resident's bill increased $1 a month right at the beginning, and then it tapered off. We'll show a slide a little later showing that in a little more detail. But the plan was adopted, projects were prioritized during that planning process, and we were ready to move forward on a pay-as-you-go basis. Just a few months after that plan was adopted, we received word that the West Union Canal Company, which is a major conveyance system for our stormwater, was getting out of the business. And the reason being that they felt that their canal was falling into disrepair, and they did not want to be liable for that. When we went through the planning process, we had the assumption that the canal would continue to be a major conveyance system for us. So we felt we needed to change the project prioritization around and even identify new projects that would handle the stormwater that was going into the West Union Canal. Along with that, the city was reviewing was planning to impose impact fees. This impact fees for many areas of the city, including water, sewer, and stormwater. This was an issue that the Public Works Advisory Commission weighed in on and strongly recommended that the city council implement these fees to have developers pay their fair share for joining into the system, the impact that they created. Well, with the canal abandonment issue and the impact fees, we felt it was probably best for us to reprioritize those plans and the master plan that was just adopted, and include those new projects so that they could be appropriately calculated into the impact fee charge. So we reanalyzed the master plan in 2017 and adopted a revised plan. Not as much effort went into the second revision of the plan, but there was some effort to add those plans and reprioritize the projects, again, on a pay-as-you-go basis. And that was adopted in 2018. And we've been taking the funding that was generated through the rate increases to fund those projects for the past several years. Those projects are listed on the next slide. And it shows that one of the original high priority projects was a project on 400 North between State Street and 400 East. That project was just under $1 million. It's complete. There's another project on 2000 South that's in process right now. It's associated with the canal abandonment, about $900,000. And then most of our other projects that we have are are newer projects associated with the West Union Canal abandonment, the 424 East Detention Basin, where we where it recommended that we purchase some property to expand a detention basin on the south end of the city. The well number 1 bypass drain is a project that would put pipe in the Hillcrest area of the city. 900 South improvements isn't associated with West Union Canal, but that was a higher priority project that we plan on designing and implementing soon. The State Street project, which is a 42-inch pipe down State Street, was a project that was identified in the plan, and we're working with UDOT and with Provo City to find to get that done. The final project, the Springwater Park project, is actually one that was a priority 2 project. However, we've had some recent nuisance flooding in the Springwater area as you drive towards the golf course on 1100, is it 1000 or 1000 South, past the park. When we get a big storm, there's a significant amount of flooding that occurs in the street as it flows towards Powell Slough. So we actually, as staff, bumped that one up in priority because it's an urgent project that needs to be done. So we've inserted that. And then again, we should reiterate, this is a pay-as-you-go plan. And so these monies are currently budgeted. We have them in accounts ready to spend on these projects. However, with this new master planning and financial or funding plan that we're creating, which we will be looking at and reprioritizing these projects based upon urgency, need, and the funding model that is ultimately adopted by the City Council. So that's my update for stormwater projects.
Stormwater's been, it's been a little more challenging as a result of changes that have gone in, that have taken place as a result of the West Union Canal abandonment, West Smith Ditch, and other canal and stormwater, irrigation conveyances where we have historically put stormwater into those systems. There are a couple of reasons why we need to get out. One is these companies are going by the wayside, but also they're in a state of disrepair, and we have some liability as a result of conveying some of our stormwater in those systems. You can imagine that typically when a canal would fail, it probably would be, or not always, but it likely would be in a time when you have a storm event, when it's overtaxed, or the canal infrastructure itself fails. And we've had some major failures that have occurred over the years, in particular in Logan or in the Draper area. We've had some significant canal failures. We've even had deaths associated with canal failures. And so it's in our best interest as a city to try to remove any stormwater and develop a new plan to reroute that stormwater in a different independent conveyance system that is safer, that is more reliable, that is new, that hasn't been around for 50 plus years, conveying water with who knows what kind of pipe or hook and crook solution may have been in place over the years. In many cases, there's kind of a hodgepodge of different types of stormwater conveyances with different canals, and in some cases the stormwater, or excuse me, the irrigation canal companies aren't even sure exactly where the pipe goes once it is buried. It may be going right adjacent to foundations of homes, or even under homes in some cases. And specifically, I'm referring to the West Union Canal. So we have a high interest in getting out. We need to look at reprioritizing some of these projects as we further identify in greater detail as a result of this new master plan where we need to target and where we know where we will be able to identify where the greatest risk might exist. And that will help us to reprioritize some of these stormwater projects. As we reprioritize, as mentioned by Reed, this will help us then and dovetail that in with our financial plan. We have hired Bone Collins and Associates to do our update of our master plan. We hired them 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, actually, to do the 2016 master plan that was started back in 2014, at least the design and the analyses that took place. They were performed by Bone Collins in conjunction with our city staff. We will sit down with them and identify project progress as we have with you, and let them know of the dollars that have been set aside for projects that have not been completed, but for which we have set money aside to design and to construct those projects. We will also sit down with our financial firm, Lewis Young Robertson Birmingham, who is our financial advisor and consultant for the city of Orem. They're under contract with us currently. We will look together with them as staff and as the consultant for the design and the engineering, and also with the financial consultant to look at how to best spend those dollars and prioritize the projects. Neal mentioned early on in his presentation the need to design and build projects that will produce generational equity. So if we have a water tank that is being built today, how many years, Neal, do you project that will last into the future?
Yeah, 75 to 100 years, if not more, with appropriate maintenance and attention.
So some of the concern we've had expressed to us by our city council is, if this asset is going to last 100 years, is it right for us as a city to make the decision to pay for that project in cash today on a pay-as-you-go basis? So an asset that's going to last another 100 years, so that could be three plus generations. And that is part of the reason why we're looking at reevaluating and reprioritizing some of these projects based on the longevity of that particular asset. Some assets may only last us 20 years, whereas others may last us 75 to 100 years, as Neal mentioned. And there are also some new projects that have been identified as a result of the City Council's vision for State Street. There are different nodes that have been adopted in the State Street Master Plan. These nodes will allow for vertical growth and development to occur at key locations along State Street corridor, from 16th North, at 12th North, at 800 North, as well as the Center Street location and 8th South and University Parkway. As those projects develop and as densities increase, there will be a greater demand on not just traffic, but also on all of our utilities, such as stormwater, water, and sewer. And this master plan update will include that potential of those new projects and the demands that will place on our different utilities.
So Chris, this
yes.
is Carol. Obviously,
Yes.
I'm the only gal on this. Why would they not want us to do pay as we go, the council, when, say it's going to last 100 years? What would be their objection to doing it that way?
Well, I think the main objection would be that if we pay for let's say a 10 million gallon tank, let's go back to that example. Let's say that costs us $15 million today to pay for that. Well, as we save the money and pay for that today, there will be those that are paying for that now that won't be able to utilize that asset into the future. So they will pass on and so forth. We feel it would be a good recommendation, and Casey could probably speak to this as well, because everything they've put in the ground and build is going to last multiple generations. We felt like spreading that out over a period of time could be in our best interest. In addition, the construction costs for that, the rates, the inflationary rate would exceed the actual interest rate to actually borrow the money today.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So, Casey, maybe you can speak to what you've observed from an inflationary construction cost perspective as you've been putting in the Central Water Project for Central Utah Water. Casey, I'm going to unmute you. Hold on.
All right.
Well, it just seems like if we pay for it now, sure, it benefits those for future generations, but isn't that a plus? I just don't quite understand that, but.
I'll just make a comment on that, Carol and Chris.
Thank you.
We've been able to borrow for our $356 million project funds less than 2% interest rate because of our credit rating.
Okay.
The savings rate is far less than that. We've averaged somewhere around 0.5% to 1/4%. So if we collect money and stick it in the bank, we don't do well with that.
So it's actually better to borrow the money at a low interest rate.
We believe that we're better served that way. Back in 2008 to 2011 or 12, we were getting very competitive bids. Before the pandemic, because we have construction of prison, I-15, Facebook, Central Valley Water Treatment Project, those kinds of projects, they have put a real pressure on contractors, and prices have gone up quite a bit. And so we did the same thing Orem did. We concluded that we're not going to collect reserves to rebuild these facilities, which in essence turn out to be fees, except for rotating equipment and those facilities that will need replacement in the next 20 to 25 years. Pipelines, which are 75-year facilities, we believe should be paid for and bonded for by the next generation, since they'll be paying for that. So
thank you.
Is our experience.
Okay, thank you. That I appreciate that explanation.
Todd or Devin, do you have any comments or ideas regarding bonding versus pay as you go?
As far as I'm concerned, the idea of equity, where those who are going to benefit from the system are those that pay into it, seems like a great way to go. I certainly agree with Carol that, great, if we have money right now that we can buy something, that's wonderful, but that's just not the reality of how a bunch of projects get put together. And so, if I remember correctly, the city council said, hey, this pay-as-you-go rate increases is making us look bad to a lot of the residents here, and a lot of people are getting upset about these huge rate increases, and knowing that they're going to continue for the next several years is something that we don't want the political capital attached to our names, or political negative capital. So
deficit, yeah.
I think the idea of using the bonding and letting it go seems like a pretty safe way to give people what they want without having to pay for it. And, those that move out or pass on never even get the benefits. So it seems like a pretty sound way to go. I do wonder if there really are any other options outside of bonding or pay as you go, but I'm just not very familiar with if there is anything else potentially.
Well, we
I'm
both
generally
was
on
it-
board with bonding.
Sorry,
Wasn't the
Tony.
council kind of against us bonding more at one point? Or do I remember that incorrectly?
No, you remember that correctly. So 5 years
And
ago,
now they've just changed.
I think they would like to evaluate, and I don't want to speak for Councilman Sumner directly, but what the feedback I'm getting is, especially from the new council members, is that the rates have gone up pretty dramatically over the last 4 years. And they would like us to at least reevaluate the plan for our rates and then perform a new rate study that could incorporate other solutions such as bonding, or Devin mentioned maybe there are some other solutions out there. And that's where we would like to engage with Lewis Young Robertson Birmingham, our financial advisor, to give us some counsel and advice, and then also to reevaluate the rates based on a bonding plan or a hybrid plan or a pay-as-you-go plan. They did do that 5 years ago, as you know, and then
Right.
the council did elect to go with pay-as-you-go. I think there was also an added pressure at that time with respect to Utopia and bonding in general, and some
Yeah.
concerns by adding bonding and debt to our liabilities as a community.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you know, I think that there is definitely concern anytime someone brings up bonding, but one of the things that I've seen and experienced, especially when it involves construction, and I think that Casey addressed this a little bit, is one of the problems that I've noticed is anytime you break down, you set a budget and you say, okay, we're going to need $10 million to build this. And then you start saving the money. By the time you save up $10 million, it doesn't cost $10 million anymore. It costs 12 or 14 million.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen that happen on almost every project I've ever worked on. Is by the time, in the time between the time you bid to the time you start construction, in a 1 year to 2 year period of time, there's usually a cost. If we do a pay as you go, that was a problem that Utopia ran into.
Yes.
Almost every project we look at, that is a problem we run into. And a bond situation helps at least to fight that, because you can start it, construct it, get it over with in one fell swoop, as opposed to little bits at a time where your construction costs go up and you can't predict what's going to happen. Like, for instance, does somebody build a new data center out in Lehigh that we don't know is happening next month?
I'd like to bring your
Hey.
attention back to this
Yeah.
figure here.
Chris?
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Chris?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please, Brent.
I was just going to say, I don't think it's the intent of the city council or any of the city employees to put a possibly unfair burden on utility rates or fees or anything the city assesses. And I think the last 2 or 3 years we've had a lot of feedback that maybe this water increase was too much too quick. And you addressed this a little bit, Chris. That's one reason we put it in pause for the next year to reevaluate it. And then one thing about the bonding, another thing, you can, what Todd just said is true, but you can also do probably more projects at a quicker timeline than the save as you go. So you can get those done and out the door, so to speak, and then move on to the next project. And save as you go is you're somewhat outspent by inflation before you get the project going. So that's just a couple of comments.
Those are great points.
Oh, one more thing, Chris, on those. I was just going to ask on those projects that you showed a couple of slides ago, and you had a dollar amount with it, is that an inflated price, or how's that figured? Is that, do you just expect 10% inflation on those time you get to them, or?
Yeah, there was an inflationary component tied to these projects. You know, it's the best guess. Yeah.
At the time this was created, if you look at the column with the estimated 2016 dollars, you look even in that first year, for example, on RW3, 150,000. The next year it was 154.5. So I think they added about a 3% per year increase to try and forecast that. Now, construction costs obviously are exceeding not only inflation, but just construction increases. So no one really knows what that will be.
Okay.
We've experienced construction rate increases of 6, 7, 8% from year to year over the last 5 years.
Now, Chris, if we did ask that financial company to do some looking at bonding versus hybrid versus pay-as-you-go, could they also spin us up an easy model of here's if you bond for 10 years, 15 years, 40 years?
Sure. Yeah, we'd give them the term. They're typically going to be around 20 to 30 years on a larger repayment plan.
I've got about 10 minutes and then I've got to go for another appointment. Are we voting on anything was my question.
We are not. We wanted to make everyone aware of the need to reevaluate, retool, revamp, and come back, reevaluate everything regarding the master plans. And we want you to know that we appreciate all of the positive influence that the commission has had over the many years. And really it was created in part to create these master plans back 5 years ago. And we are going to be updating these. We are going to be working with our financial consultant, our engineering consultant, and they are going to be integrating and meeting with us as well through Zoom or some other electronic means, as long as that's necessary. Our hope was that we could come up with some new rates in the next fiscal year that would accommodate these changes. I think it's quite aggressive for us to be able to do that. And I foresee that we will be updating those from year to year. But this will be an educational process, as Neal mentioned, with the city council. We have 2 new council members that weren't involved with this. And your endorsement, your involvement, asking questions, asking tough questions is going to be important. And to be able to tell the council that, you dove into the details and the nitty-gritty of all of these discussions, and you'll be able to share your feelings as hopefully uniformed feelings as a unified body.
And Chris, I think you do public works, you do a fabulous job. There's no getting around it, and kudos to you. And I think it's important for you to let us know when our voices can be heard at city council meetings, planning commission meetings, whatever. So we're there to support you.
We will do that, and they're being held electronically as well. So it might be more easy for you to attend and to come and go quickly. I know everyone has a busy schedule, and so that
okay.
That
With that, I'm going to sign off. But but thank you. At least I got the audio to work.
Carol, can I ask you what a preferred meeting time is before you go? Not the next date, but is it better to go?
I like the early morning myself.
Okay. Casey's nodding.
I can go into work and log on, or stay at home and then go after. So yeah, I like early mornings better.
Very good.
And someday we can meet in person, right?
Okay. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, the
We will-
early
All
mornings,
right.
the early mornings work best for me as well.
Very good. We'll go back to 7, and we might need to meet every other month or every month for the next 6 to 8 months, if that is going
Okay.
to be okay.
That
Yeah,
works.
that's just
Period.
fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you, Carol.
Carol,
Bye-bye.
Bye. So let me ask Devin, Todd, and Casey for a next calendar event. We could meet in 2 months if that works for you.
I'd say let's just do it in a month if that works for you guys.
Okay.
I think there's no reason to delay. We're all
Okay.
interested.
That works.
We'll have ready in a month.
You say you will be ready in a month?
I don't know how, right now we're in the data finding and data gathering.
Okay.
So, you know, August 21st, I think early September might be our better, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, maybe, if not full 2 months. But I don't know that a month from now we'll have much more to update.
And that applies both to the financial consulting that you do?
I think so. The financial consultant is going to work on the heels of some of the findings of the engineering analysis to see if we need to shift around projects. That's actually where the bulk of the work that we will be reviewing will be in the financial plan, because the groundwork has been laid for the projects that we need to build. So that part has been kind of established. So, I mean, Chris, Reed, any other thoughts on that? I just don't know that in a month.
I'm fine with doing later than a month, but if there's other work that we can do in a month, then I'm down for it.
Yeah, I would agree with Neal that we're at the very beginning. We're getting them data. They haven't performed any analysis. There's probably going to be very little to share in the next 4 weeks. We probably need 8 weeks. If we wanted to have some kind of a dedicated meeting just talking about bonding and financing, I don't think that's going to take an hour. But just general concepts was what I was suggesting there. But I would recommend we go to September. That would be the 15th, would be the 3rd Tuesday. That's what we've done traditionally. We could plug that in 7 a.m. on September 15th if that works.
I'd actually be interested in doing earlier in the month so that when we come around to Thanksgiving and Christmas, we're not butting up against everyone's holiday weeks as well.
Very good.
That
Yeah.
might be amenable to other people.
If it's at 7, it may not matter. Casey, Todd, how about you? Would you feel comfortable with that?
yeah,
That
Maybe
works
the
with me.
second week.
Yeah.
Is everyone's schedule rigid enough that we can't schedule a week in advance, where when we know that we have good data to review and issues to discuss with the commission, or is it best to schedule something 2 months out?
are there public notification issues, or is it just 24 hours, Chris?
Yeah, we have this is a public meeting, so I don't know if that's 24 hours. If April's there, you can chime in on that. But we do need some advance notice.
I think it's fair. It is 24 hours. I think a week is good to let the public know. And even though legally 24 hours is okay, I think a week is good. I'm just, if it's best to have something put on the schedule, that's fine. I was just curious if everyone's schedule is flexible enough that we could set something a week in advance once we know for sure. And perhaps
a week in advance would be fine with me in 90% of cases.
Okay.
It might also encourage us as staff to make sure that we have something presentable, but so a date in two months might make sure that we're ready. Right? That's the flip side of my question.
My hope for September, October, November, December is that we would do our meeting by about the 15th or so. So I think just doing 8 weeks out from now on September 15th, and then maybe doing the second week instead of the third week, just kind of looking at the schedule when we meet next time, may be the way to go if everyone's okay with doing 8 weeks from now on September 15th.
That works.
It's fine.
Okay, we'll plan on that.
Awesome, thank you.
September 15th at 7 a.m. is when we'll schedule that.
Yep.
And by then, we'll probably have 2 new members as well on the committee to introduce.
Wonderful.
I'll
Hey,
reach out.
Chris,
Yeah.
there was something I wanted to put in the presentation. If you could go back to the rate schedule, I just wanted to remind us, I think some of the pain on slide 17, and then I'd like to share my screen. Some of the pain, I think, with residents is not that we are out of whack with where we should be. It's just that we are more than what we were. And so if you look at 2013, 14, 15, 16, and I don't even know, probably before that, it probably was very minimal increases, if not no increases on the flat rate of water. But we went from those rates where we were, I will be as bold to say that maybe we were neglectful in increasing rates to meet the needs of the utility. If I can share my screen here to show you where we are, you cannot, well, the other, okay, so you need to unshare.
Yeah, hold on.
Let's see here. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna scoot this over.
Are you sharing?
Are you seeing my screen now?
No,
No.
just your face, Neal.
Screen 2, share. How about now?
That's much better.
So
There you go.
this analysis was done last year in FY20 of April. So it was updated up through 2019 of April. And you can still see that in the water area, we are 4th from the very bottom, and only by a small margin. Springville's got us because they are going through the experiences that we went through, and they're going to increase. But we're still very low on the water side. The sewer side, you know, we're up in the middle there, and then stormwater in the middle, and the garbage and the property tax and franchise. But we're getting a lot of attention from residents about our water rates. And I don't know that that is a result of being too high as much as just being more than we were. And I just wanted to make that information available to the members of the commission, so that as we move forward, we have that in the back of our mind there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And this is something that we update every year. We get data from comparable cities. There's about 15 or so, and we compare ourselves against others. Even though we're trying to right size for Orem, it's good to know how we do compare to others. We don't want to raise a rate to raise a rate, or to be more competitive, if you will. We want to, if we need to raise a rate, it's because there is an actual need, a need to be able to sustain a $350 million asset into the future for our children and for our grandchildren. So we have no interest in raising any rates unless there's a good foundation for that reason.
Chris, just a comment on Neal's. As I recall, and Neal, I don't disagree with you at all, but I also think that part of the issue is that residents are without data. And as AMI is implemented,
right,
they can then see what water they use. It's up to them to make certain that they don't go into tier 4 or tier 3, and they can control that.
Yeah.
And so I think part of the feedback has to be tempered from the fact that they don't have the data to be able to say, well, I didn't know I was going up another tier. And I think is you put that in, that's going to be a very beneficial thing that we can educate with.
Totally agree. That's a great point, Casey.
As we speak in the other room, Itron and Hydro Specialties and Orem staff are reviewing our field visit from Itron. This is the first field visit from Itron since COVID. They were scheduled to come in March and start that, and we had a very successful, exciting day today in the AMI world. So
Only water guys can get excited about automated metering, Neal.
Todd's just going to be in it for the data, I think.
That's right.
He's going to dissect every line item on his account.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Chris,
Yes.
I think I agree with everything that's just been said, but that's one reason why we've kind of put it in a hold pattern for the next year to take a look at some of the things that's just been mentioned. I mean, I have no intent of beating out West Jordan for number one.
Right.
Just be number one.
Right.
So I think, like you said, we need to have a need for it and not just be adding dollars on there without some justification.
Absolutely. 100%.
And it's 5 years, believe it or not, we're 5 years later. So that's not, that's a pretty common thing, is to review rates every 5 years or so.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we were the only ones doing it, we'd be at the top right now. But everyone else is raising rates because they have needs. Yeah. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. I do appreciate you taking some time out of your lunch. Hopefully you were able to get some nutrition still. With that, we will go ahead and I should turn the time back over to Devin, our chairperson, to wrap up.
Unfortunately, I believe we don't have a quorum, so we can't officially end this meeting ever. So we're just going to be hanging out here. No, never mind. I don't believe that I have anything to bring forward. I look forward to getting to work on this master plan with you guys at the city, and certainly with my fellow council members or commission members here.
Thank you to everyone for your willingness to serve the city of Orem. With that, we'll see you in September 15th, but we'll be in touch between now and then, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.